Okay, sorry for that little pause. I wanted to make sure we were recording this. For those who couldn't attend, we will have this video available. So using classifications in Maximo is a way to define between generic parts and actual spare parts, and it's a way to identify your spare parts from your OEM spare parts that are for a specific piece of equipment. First, I'd like to introduce ProjectTech, the company, to you if you're not familiar with us. ProjectTech is headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we've been privately held since 1992. We're the largest cloud computing software as a service provider of IBM Maximo. Since 1999, we've been providing Maximo as a service and a secure, cost-effective cloud computing solution to more than 15,000 users. And we're globally recognized as a premier business partner of IBM. As a matter of fact, in 2012, we received the specific license, the application-specific license award at their big event in Las Vegas every year, Pulse. Now, before we get started on the webinar, since this is right after lunch, I thought I'd share with everybody a little ProjectTech commercial to kind of lighten the spirit here.
If you work on important maintenance projects, then your world runs on Maximo. It maintains your assets so your work can continue uninterrupted. It's not perfect, though. Hosting Maximo yourself creates a ton of problems. Like when Maximo is on site, it's prone to accidents on site. Plus, it's only as secure as the security you can provide. What about when you're on vacation? And it doesn't always cooperate or play nice with others. And when you're the one who takes care of Maximo, everyone runs to you when anything goes wrong. You're either constantly updating the software and hardware to keep it current, or sticking with the old version until it just stops working, which can have huge consequences, since downtime means the lights go out, things catch fire, and the world stops turning. In the end, you're spending all of your time maintaining the thing that maintains your maintenance, and that dog won't hunt. Maybe it's time old Max got a new home. Luckily, ProjectTech is here to help. See, ProjectTech secures, optimizes, and maintains your Maximo in the cloud. Your installation is hosted in remote data centers, so you don't have to worry about accidents or security problems. Hey, even NASA trusts these guys. And ProjectTech's crack customer service team will work with your employees to solve their problems even in the field. Plus, ProjectTech keeps the system updated for you, so it plays nice with others, and you're always up and running with the latest features and stability fixes, which means little to no downtime, so the world can keep turning. What's this mean for you? Well, since you're spending less time and money taking care of Maximo, you can focus on innovating and creating new systems to change the world. You know, small stuff like that. Let ProjectTech take care of your Maximo for you, so you can learn a few new tricks yourself.
Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed our little commercial. We had a lot of fun putting that together. As I said before, I'm going to have everybody muted because we've got such a big crowd on here today. If you do have any questions regarding, regarding ProjectTech or classifications in Maximo or anything else in Maximo, feel free to send your questions to info@projecttech.com and we'll respond via email. I've told you before, my name's Jackie and I'm today's presenter. Okay, so this is what classifications can really help with. The value proposition for using classifications in Maximo is to increase your technician's wrench time and remove some of the inventory costs. And it's a tool that you've already got in Maximo. You just have to build your classifications list. So in this scenario, which was an actual scenario that I've worked with, the facility had 30 technicians who were responsible for getting their own parts for work. And the assumption is that by using classifications, you could save the technicians a half an hour a day related to finding parts. So with all the calculations, that comes to 30 technicians, half an hour a day, 260 days a year, that's a 5-day work week, is equal to 3,900 hours. When you multiply that by the industry standard of about $50 an hour, you come up with a savings, a value savings of $195,000. Now the other assumption is that you have multiple parts within your Maximo system that are the same part but have multiple numbers because they've been put in by different people with different descriptions. So if you have a value inventory, the value of your inventory of approximately $1 million, and the industry standard for inventory carrying cost is about 25% of the cost of your inventory, that's an additional savings of $25,000. So just by classifying and itemizing your parts, you could save about $320,000 based on this value proposition. And that's quite a bit of money that I'm sure a company would like to see on their books. Okay, so after the webinar, some of the objectives that we'd like you to take away: you should be able to improve your data accuracy and integrity. You should be able to create a searchable and sortable item master catalog. You should be able to use the system to automatically generate item descriptions with correct taxonomy. You should be able to use item classes, reduce inventory costs, and save time and effort related to finding parts. This list of part descriptions is an actual list from a company that I've worked with. And all of these parts on here could describe the same item. So item record entry should be restricted to a minimum number of people, or at least have a strict guide of how to enter the data. And suppose the first item is needed for a work order, say this valve air solenoid, but the balance is 0. A delay in work could happen when you actually have the identical part on the shelf somewhere else or in a different storeroom, but simply because you have it described differently, or it has a different part number, nobody knows it's there. So some of the issues with having incorrect descriptions in your item master: this one's lacking key information. Anybody who saw this would really not know what this is, except that it's a valve. So I doubt that anybody would ever select it for a work order. A manufacturer's name shouldn't be included in an item master description, because your item master should be the specification for a part, and you can have alternate vendors, or as many vendors and manufacturer numbers and catalog numbers that you need to go with that part. This one has a manufacturer's part number. This one's application specific, so people sometimes put parts in for a specific application, and then that item is restricted for use only in that application when it may be able to be used somewhere else. Here's another one that's location specific. So item classification taxonomy is really important for creating that searchable, sortable database of parts. The list of parts and assets should be contained in this searchable, sortable database. And we don't want to have to remember the make, model, and supplier when it would be easier just to identify the part by a generic description or specification. So by following a designated taxonomy for identifying items, it's easier to find parts more quickly or find alternative and interchangeable parts if needed. Think of it as sort of your item specification. And we say that the taxonomy should be the noun, which would be what the main part is, or the class. The next should be the adjective, which is the subclass of the part. So for the valves we were looking at in the previous list, we may want to have the noun as valve, the adjective as solenoid, and then all the attributes, which would be the opening size, the body material, things like that, should follow the class and the subclass. So first we're going to take a look at a screenshot from Maximo. and trying to find what's wrong with this screenshot. So first of all, we have the manufacturer's name in this description. And we don't know what this number in the description means. It could be a catalog number, model number, it could be a location number. We really don't know. Secondly, or I should say thirdly, we don't really know if this part is a pump or a seal based on this description. If it is a seal, which we're kind of assuming, can it be used on anything but this Waukesha pump? So this really limits the use of this part based on the description. Okay, so here's the correct use of specifications within Maximo. If they're used correctly, the description should look more like a specification than like a retail catalog entry. The class or noun for this part would be seal. The subclass or the adjective would be shaft, and now we know it's a shaft seal. And then the rest of these numbers following are the attributes for this particular part, so that as to what this part can be used for. Okay, so a brief list of what classifications should not contain. They should not contain manufacturer names. They should not contain part numbers. They shouldn't contain model numbers, vendor names, vendor part or catalog numbers. They shouldn't include the specific equipment name or number, and they shouldn't include a location name or number. And the only exception to this would be if it's an OEM part, and we'll kind of get into that later. So this screenshot from Maximo shows item numbers being used incorrectly to list what should be rotating assets or rotating items or assets. And that's tires that we kind of like to keep track of where they're stored, where they're installed, et cetera, et cetera. And whoever put these into Maximo tried to identify and track each tire by just adding a number to the end of the item number. But if you need to keep track of an item, again, like I said, it should be a rotating item, so it should have one item number, and then each individual item in your storeroom or on your equipment should have an asset number. So right now, we're going to look at classifying an item, and because we've looked at these tires already, we're going to look at how you would classify these tires. Okay. So classifying a rotating item is really no different than classifying any other spare part. So we'll go ahead and classify the tire, and the only difference is we check the checkbox that says it's a rotating item. So after you enter an item number into Maximo, then you go down to the classification. Rather than typing in a description here, go down to the little chevron by classifications and click classify. Okay, and when you click classify, this screen or this window opens with your list of classifications that you've got in Maximo. I'm sorry, I meant to show from this screen. Down here we see tire. So we have this classification hierarchy. We have the noun or the class of tire. Underneath it we have a subclass or the adjective of tractor. And then we have another subclass of either snow or all season. So you can build a hierarchy for classifications just like you do a hierarchy for assets or locations in Maximo. Okay, so after we select the class and the subclasses, Maximo will automatically bring up this drop-down list or this list of attributes for you to populate to identify this part. Okay, and so for the tire, we have tire size, we have the pressure rating, and we have the tread depth. And there might be more, but it provides the type of data it wants you to put into the fields. If there's a unit of measure required, that'll already come up populated. So you just fill in the fields with the information. Once you do that, when you click Save, Maximo will automatically populate your description here with the proper taxonomy to make it sortable and searchable. And we'll see how you can search for parts based on this description here in a minute. So here, using classifications to find items for work, and this is where it really cuts down on the time it takes the technician or the store's clerk or anybody who's looking for a part to find that specific part. When you go to a work order and the planning screen and you click on materials here, if you insert new row and you click on the chevron by item, you get this drop-down box that allows you to select classifications. When you select classifications, the list of those classifications, your whole classification library, will show up on the screen in the right-hand corner here. From here, you can drill down for the part you need by selecting the class, the subclass, and then populating the attributes over here. And as you refine your attributes over here, the list down here would get shorter and shorter. So then you narrow down the parts that would fit this, and here's where they're searchable and sortable. And if I keep saying searchable and sortable, that's because that's the main takeaway from here, that it's easy to find parts by using the classifications. Okay, another option for finding parts when you're in a work order and you need to put a part to that planning tab, instead of clicking on classifications, just click on the attributes. Then you populate which attribute you want to search on. You can put in just a part of that attribute number or description, and Maximo will bring up a list of all the parts that have that attribute with that description for it. So in this case, we only have one that has an attribute that starts with LT. That's a tire size. It's just another way to keep clicking refine. You can keep adding attributes and refining until you narrow your list down to the parts that you need. Okay, here's where we said if it's a rotating part, you just simply check this rotating. And then every time you receive this part, it's going to have the same description, it's going to have the same item number, but as we all know, it'll require you to put an asset number with that part so that it's traceable every time it's moved to a different location or piece of equipment. Okay, here's my slide about classifying OEM items. The description can be more indicative of what the part's used for, if it's specifically manufactured or fabricated for a piece of equipment. But OEM items are not items that are purchased or distributed by an OEM for a piece of equipment. So say they, buy pumps or something, they don't manufacture them specific for a piece of equipment, then that would not be considered an OEM item. Okay, from there, we're just going to go into a quick demonstration in Maximo. So let me switch my screens here. And bring up Maximo. And we're going to type in our favorite demo person here, Mr. Wilson. So now you've seen how you can use classifications to classify items, but you're probably asking, well, how do I get classifications into my Maximo system? So it's really pretty easy. It could probably be time consuming, but the rewards you reap from putting the list in there would probably outweigh the time it takes to put them in. From the go-to menu, classifications are located in the administration application. So when I click on classifications here, I click on my list little magnifying glass here. See, I have 274 classifications in here. But if I wanted to, narrow that down, I have my advanced search feature as I do in anywhere else, any other application in Maximo. And I'll click on the parent classification, and I'm going to enter tire, because we've been looking at the tires. I'm also going to enter valve. And then I'm going to click find. So over here we see that parent classification. So every classification that has a parent of tire or valve is included in this list over here. So let's go down and look at this solenoid valve. We've looked at a rotating item. Now let's look at one that's not rotating. So this is what a classification in Maximo looks like. You can determine what objects it's used with. If it's used with assets, items, locations, PMs, just by clicking on New Row here, you could add more items that it can be used with. And here's where you can put in what attributes you want to be populated when that item is selected. Okay, you can also add new attributes. I'm going to slide over here. You can put in a new row and add new attributes. So let's say I wanted to add a new attribute. And I wanted it to be, let's see, strength. I don't know if that's really, okay, so it's telling me that strength isn't in there. So I can go here, and it says that I've entered strength. It's not a valid attribute. Would I like to add it? So it's that easy to add additional attributes for items that are coming in. I'm going to say no. That's not really the attribute I wanted. So I'll delete strength here. And instead, I'll click my select value. And then I can see out of 187 attributes. I might just want to pick one that's already here. Maybe weight. So weight is already in here. I'll just put weight. And now that attribute is in there. It's already got a unit of measure, and I'll save my record. And now whenever I pull up that valve, it's going to have that attribute associated with it as well. Okay, at the top up here, there's a few checkboxes that are important. This checkbox for Generate Description is what allows you to have the description automatically generated by Maximo when you save an item record. The Use Classification is also used in generating the description. It's going to put it in the proper taxonomy that you have. And then the Show in Asset Business View, if you use your asset topology, it's going to show up in there as well. Okay, so now we see from this solenoid valve that we have a parent classification. So we'll click on our little chevron here. And we're going to move up the hierarchy to this parent classification. And now here's where we see all of those children classifications for Maximo valves. And it's also where I can add new children. If I have a new type valve come in and I need to add another subclass to valve, I simply add it here and then determine what attributes need to go with that type of valve. Okay, so that's how simple it is to add a new classification to Maximo. And you can add as many as you'd like. There's no limit. And you can add as many attributes as you'd like. There's no limit. So it can be pretty much customized to whatever industry you're in. So now we're going to go to Item Master to see. We're going to go ahead and enter a new item. Oops, we missed Item Master. Just so you can kind of see how easy it is to use it. I'm going to open a new record. I'm just going to put in today's date. as my item number. I'm going to let Maximo populate that. Okay, so from here, I'm going to click on Specifications, our Specifications tab, a little chevron next to Classifications, and I'm going to classify. So here's where I get that whole list of items that are in my classification library. And yours would probably have many more than our demo environment. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select valve. And as in any other application in Maximo, you have the little plus signs to expand your selection. So let's drop down a little more. And then I have to click on the little blue box to select the actual valve. I'll click on solenoid. Now you see the classification shows up. It's valve, solenoid, and here's all the attributes. Now I'm not going to populate all of these just for the sake of time, but I'll say my pipe size is 0.5. I can say I've got, let's see, an electrical rating of 40, and I'll put in a unit measure, V. That doesn't like my V, so let's pick it here. We want volts. Okay, I have a connection here. Let's just say that's top. Oh, and maybe body materials, brass. Okay, so now when I click on the save record here, it's going to save my item description in the taxonomy that I want, the noun, the adjective, and then all the attributes over here. And that's how easy it is to create an item once you have classifications in your system. And that's how easy it is to create a searchable item, so that you're not trying to guess what other people mean by the description they put. Okay. So now we're going to go back and just kind of wrap up. So for the wrap-up, Maximo classifications is a way of classifying items using the classification. Okay, it improves your data accuracy and integrity of items in your item master. It helps you create a searchable, sortable item master catalog. You can use the system to automatically generate item descriptions with correct taxonomy, with the noun, adjectives, attributes. Can use item classes. It reduces inventory carrying costs, and it'll save a lot of time and effort and money related to finding parts. So that sort of wraps up our webinar for classifications. Again, if you have any questions or any specific information you need, feel free to send us an email at info@project. Or if you just want to check out our website and the video that you saw earlier with the little dog, Max, you can go to our website at www.projecttech.com. So thanks everybody for your time, and we look forward to hearing from all of you.